All right, we're going to start speeding things up here a little bit. The Big Five personality. Finally, let's talk about some real science here. People ask me all the time, hey, what do you think about the Big Five? I think the Big Five is one of the best damn things that could ever happen to the world of personality psychology. It's showing the Myers-Briggs how to do it right. Define your terms, work with others, have trackable material. Look, here's the difference. A pseudoscience person is going, you got to trust me. I saw this pattern. Me and my friends saw it. It's totally real. You got to get in on this. Either you believe it or you don't. You can't argue with the guru. Any scientific approach is saying, look, I may be a total complete jackass, which I am, but look at the work. Debate the work. That's what a scientist wants to set up, is that the work lives on, the data lives on, not the guy, not the guru, not the organization. You got to pay $1,700 for to get their magic certificate. So Big Five really exposes the ridiculous practices of the Myers-Briggs. All right, so I actually did get into studying the Big Five quite a bit a few years ago, so I'm a little rusty here, but let's just go to the Google real fast. Just no particular order. Let's start with extrovertism. So everything is in a spectrum. Thank you, a spectrum. Are you this or that? Oh my fucking God. It's a spectrum of extrovertism. And so it's very similar to the Myers-Briggs. We'll start with that one. So it's like, are you introverted on the far left or extroverted on the far right or somewhere in the middle because you're a goddamn ambivert? Just like your buddy Bill Nye the Science Guy says, bell curves, spectrums. The problem with Big Five, it's doing the same thing that the Myers-Briggs does, and it's kind of calling people introvert extroverts. If you really listen to people defining the extrovertism spectrum, even Jordan Peterson, they're still talking about extroverted people like literally the people that go to parties and like people. Like, sure, if you're lead FE extrovert, yeah, but there's a lot of people that have a lead extroverted function, maybe lead any, followed by a bunch of introverted energy, they're not so much of a people person, you know what I mean? But then again, throw in some ambivert and we can cover that all up real fine. Jumping to the hard one, neuroticism. So this doesn't really have anything to do with a personality type or a personality function or anything like that. It has to do with, did your fucking parents beat you hard enough when you were a kid or not? If you read Fixed Mindset versus Growth Mindset, it talks a lot about this kind of idea here. People that are very neurotic, they're incongruent with themselves. So they'll kind of play one side of the personality, try and be a perfectionist and all put together and all very nice and tidy, and then another side is very crazy and wild and imbalanced. They haven't been able to reconcile the light and the darkness. So they'll switch back and forth from these two erratic emotional states. So picture neuroticism, because I know it sounds like a really big bad word, but we all start off this way. Look at a kindergartner as neurotic. They're extremely happy and then extremely temper tantrum. And so somebody who's highly neurotic just basically hasn't grown out of that state for whatever fucking reason. So this is probably one of the biggest ones that you can change, and you should change, is work on kind of balancing your inner and outer world. Now, agreeableness, we've kind of noticed that one as what we've been tracking, and this is going to be way down the line in the classes, not on the YouTube classes, but on the website classes, is feminine and masculine energy. Feminine energy, and Tony Robbins touches on this, we've been able to track it a little bit more in detail in our work here, but feminine energy is more agreeable, it's accepting, it's wanting to have someone else take the lead, and there's all sorts of different forms that the feminine energy will come out. And then somebody who's less agreeable, strong, non-movable, masculine, shovey. And then openness, this kind of seems like the P and the J of the Myers-Briggs, I know, or even, pretty much the P and the J, let's say. And the P and the J in the regard of like control versus gather. So somebody who's very open, they're more savior, NE or SE. Oh yes, I'd like new ideas. I'd like to take in more. I don't want to be rigid and structured. I'll accept what you're taking. But that can also be tied to neuroticism of, are you threatened by new information? Again, reference growth mindset, fixed mindset. So again, these kind of dynamics are kind of bleeding into each other a little bit. And then conscientiousness, somebody who is hardworking, dependable, organized. In Myers-Briggs, then we'll look at that as kind of like a TJ, an STJ, or NTJ, or whatever. And then somebody who's willy-nilly, impulsive, careless, disorganized, what we would classically call a P. All right, so number one, the Big Five is one of the greatest things that could ever happen to personality psychology because it's laying out the structure of how to do personality study the right way. You work in a team, you work out in the open, you track your numbers, you share your data, and you're honest, unlike the Myers-Briggs, which is why it's got its ass kicked for decades by everybody in the scientific community. Also, with the Big Five, it's not super duper all-out scientific. For example, say we were to break this down, you put two different Big Five personality operators in two different rooms. Have them track the same 50 people, have them take the same test, and then grade these people on a spectrum of, just divide the spectrum, let's say, into fours. So on introvert, extrovert, is the person way to the left or way to the right or kind of on the left or kind of on the right? So you got four little variables times 5. So 1 in 100 chance that the two operators could get the two people to be the same on their little test. Could they do it? Hell no. Because again, the Big Five is stuck with the same limitation as Myers-Briggs, and it's relying largely on people filling out their own profiles, answering questions about themselves. And you really get screwed when you do that, because once my grandma comes to town and she fills out her test, watch what she fucking does. So bottom line with the big five, it's great scientifically. If you've taken it, if you've used it, if it's been beneficial for you, great. And my favorite thing about it is it shows us how to track personality scientifically. But then the negative side of it is it kind of does drop off. It's not going to get you a lot of genetic tracking.